What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And today, well, right now it is 11:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Day 2 of the NFL draft just ended, and it's been an eventful 102 picks, but there are still so many great players available, and that's what this video is about. It's the best of the rest, the best available prospects left in the draft going into day 3. Make sure to hit the like button on here. It's so late. It's the second night in a row I've stayed up late. I'm going to do it again tomorrow probably to put together some more videos and to put together some slides for the player grades. So just please like and subscribe. And we're going to go position by position here and pick out the one or two best at each position left, in my opinion, based upon my grades. There's some really good guys left. There's going to be some stars coming out on day 3 in this draft for sure. Let's get to the video. All right, guys, and we're just going to go on the NFL website and whatever. I hope the screen's big enough for you guys. You can see my pretty face and still, my coffee machine in the background. But here's the screen, and I think for the center position, that's where we're going to start. It's Luke Weipler. I don't quite know, maybe because teams can't decide whether or not he's a guard or a center, but for an interior offensive lineman to still be on the board, I thought he was going to go pretty early on day 2 potentially. I thought like the floor was sort of late there to San Francisco. But it seems like he is. Let me get more centered here. It seems like teams aren't that into him. I think Oluwatumi hurt his stock towards the end of his run at Michigan there in his senior year. But there's no reason why these two shouldn't be the two quickest interior offensive linemen off the board. And I'm going to throw a quick potentially a big steal would be Alex Forsyth. He graded out really well. When I was looking at the grades starting my deep dive series, you got to get the player grades way ahead of time. Forsyth was graded out quite well, so I would look for him. But I think Luke Weipler, I would settle on him being the number 1 center left on the board. And we'll move over to corner. Look at this nice little drop-down box with the undrafted option. He's right there at the top. It's Keely Ringo. He was cornerback 1 in September and then had a couple of really rough games. And just his stock seems to never have recovered. I think teams are looking at him potentially as a safety as well. I've heard that teams have him as a safety on some of their boards, but I don't understand how he's not picked yet. Clark Phillips is a big name, not a bigger name. He's a big name too, but his size, I could see being the justification as to why he didn't go in the first 2 days. And Eli Ricks is still on the board, but I don't know what happened, why he declared. And I think he's really paying for it right now. Jalen Jones is still there. Caillou Blue-Kelly is still there. There's some really good corners on the board, man. But I think Keely Ringo is the cream of the crop of that group. But a bunch of teams really are going to get some really good day 3 corners to add to that depth and probably be able to develop them because they're getting them so late. But yeah, Keely Ringo, man, wow. Can't believe he's still there. Well, that's for some reason giving us no results back. All right, defensive ends. Isaiah McGuire and Mike Morris. I think those are two bigger guys who can come in, play a 4 technique for some teams. I think I would go with Isaiah McGuire first. I think Isaiah McGuire would have a little bit more versatility than Mike Morris. I'm a Michigan fan, and Mike Morris, I never got it. He had some good games, but I never quite saw what other people really saw in him as to being some big time top prospect. That is, this light is ridiculous. Oh, I'll lean back a bit. Whatever, we're doing it. We're doing this really late, guys. Doing this really late with a different camera than usual, if you didn't tell. Defensive tackles, Adetame Adebari. That's not even, do we even have to continue with that? do we even have to continue? He's easily going to be the best player, I think. The most likely to make an impact out of all the players on the defense side of the ball. It seems like it's going to come off the board tomorrow or today, because you're watching this posted first thing in the morning today. Someone's going to get a nice early down defensive end and a passing down interior rusher. Maybe a 3-4 team picks him up so he can play some 4 and 5 tech on early downs or whatever. But yeah, it's out of Bari all day. And now traditional edge types. This is tough. I've always liked Andre Carter. I don't know why he's falling. He had a lot of potential early on in the year. To me, he's probably the best one, I would say, on the board here. KJ Henry, I think, can make a case for that, but I really like Andre Carter, man. I really do. He's the man for me. Pause. Are there fullbacks? Hunter Lipke. Boom. That's your fullback. Yeah, we're talking about fullbacks. We're going through every position, all the way down to that wide receiver at the end. So, guard. Voorhees has the injury issues, so I can understand what's happening there. But if he could have just stayed healthy, he would have been an early to mid second or early to mid day 2 pick. Somewhere at the, early second round to late, like a second round pick. So if he can get healthy and he can get on a team like San Francisco, if he can get on a team like even like the Rams, even though they drafted Cody Mock, or the Bills, even though they got Osiris Torrance, right, in the second round. Emil Ekiyor could be a really good one there. If you're looking for some versatility, a guy who could be sort of like a 6th offensive lineman. Nick Broker would be a good option. Jackson Kirkland. And the biggest sleeper is City Sal. But I think he got drafted to the USFL or the USFL. There's so many like minor professional football leagues now. It's hard to tell, but I really like City Sal. They haven't listed as a guard here. I think it might be a tackle. But I'll settle on Andrew Voorhees. Andrew Voorhees is going to be really great. Kickers, we saw Jake Moody go at 99 to the 49ers. And to be honest, he's the only kicker I was familiar with as a Michigan fan. So don't take kickers in the draft ever. Unless it's a guy who's like blasting 65-yarders in college, don't take him. Like, it's not Sebastian Janikowski. Linebacker. Man, poor Noah Sewell. Henry To'oTo'o. Those guys had first-round buzz. They're kind of like Keely Ringo in that sense. They had first-round buzz in September, and then they just did themselves no favors throughout the year. Absolutely no favors. I think if a team's looking for like a blitzing linebacker, I think Herbig would be a good choice for that. Because the places have listed him as edge, they've listed him as linebacker, so he's going to be like one of those blitzing off-ball linebackers. I still am going to say that Noah Sewell's the best linebacker on the board. I just think he had a rough year. And aren't people allowed to have rough years? I guess not in college. Costs you millions of dollars having a rough year. This cost him millions of dollars, but I think whatever team he ends up on, you're going to get a hard worker, and you're going to get somebody who's going. I look at him the same way I would look at the impact that Malcolm Rodriguez made last year on Detroit. He's going to make some good plays, and he's going to make some tragic mistakes, and it's up to you as a coaching staff to be able to reel him in on the tragic mistakes while also allowing him to play with the freedom that allows him to make the really good plays. I'll leave it at that. We'll do long snapper. I don't know these guys. Full disclosure, don't know them. I'll go with the guy who has the longest name. Offensive tackle, again, this is one I don't even think about. It's DeJuan Jones. I had him going late in the first round, early in the second round, and this guy's going to be there on day 4. He's been passed up multiple times by teams that could use a tackle. I would love to know the reason, to be honest. I don't know if there's a good one. And I think after him, you can make an argument for Blake Freeland, who graded out amazing during the college football season. But I think getting dominated in those Senior Bowl practices, destroyed his stock, to say the least. And, Jalen Duncan had first-round buzz early in the college football season, but I think teams started to really get exposed to him. But I think DeJuan Jones, I would hope would be one of the first 15 players taken on day 3 in the 4th round. So here's to hoping. I don't understand what happened to that. I really don't. There's some guys that just makes no sense why they drop so much. Like Darnell Washington, there was concerns about his health, but he still went 98, 97 to Pittsburgh. So, Oh, punters. I should say Brad Robbins, but it's Michael Turk. I'm pretty sure Matt Turk is his dad. And that guy was a beast punter. So Michael Turk. Now the quarterback position, and for me it's Tanner McKee. It's Tanner McKee. I'm looking at the Raiders as a landing spot for him. Now that we've seen Hendon Hooker go to Detroit, Will Levis went to Tennessee early on. He was the second pick of the second round because Pittsburgh did the right thing and took Joey Porter. That made me nervous. I'm like, this is meant to happen. Anyway, it's Tanner McKee, and I think that the Raiders would be a great landing spot for him. Because the thing that's dropping him is the mobility. And you saw from the first 3 quarterbacks taken in the draft, you saw even with Will Levis and Hendon Hooker, you saw with who's getting big contracts right now in the NFL, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. You need to be able to be more than just an old school drop back passer. And Tanner McKee is unfortunately that. I think if Tanner McKee was 10 years older, came out 10 years ago, he would have been a first round pick. It's just unfortunate for him that his skill set doesn't really tailor to what the modern NFL is. But I think if he gets in the right situation, he could be a real solid, reliable quarterback in the league and could run an offense, could be functional in an offense. And if he has a good team around him, I think could see a lot of success. Maybe certainly outplay what you would expect from a day 3 quarterback. Now, running back is tough. Running back's tough because you get a bunch of guys who have different skill sets, and you got Sean Tucker really sticks out to me being available, and the other one is Israel Abanikanda. Is that how you say it? I really like Israel Abanikanda to end up on a team where he can be used sort of like an Austin Eckler. I think that would be a really good spot for him. Zach Evans is in a weird spot. I feel like Eric Gray and Dwayne McBride are in a weird spot as well. Especially with Zach Charbonnet going to Seattle. Like, it's interesting to see what teams have been going after running backs. That's the toughest thing, really, is what team is going to start taking running backs on like day 2, early day 3. It's usually a team taking a guy who's going to fill a specific role in the offense, not necessarily somebody who's going to be like a bell cow workhorse. And then if you end up with that type of a player because he just excels in your offensive scheme, or things just click for him in the film room or in the practice field, then it's extra. But I wouldn't mind the New York Giants, my New York Giants, who are looking to add speed to go and get Israel Abanikanda to play behind Saquon Barkley. So he would probably be my number one guy for my own team, but the number one guy I think overall, I have to give it to Sean Tucker. Safety, without a question, it's Antonio Johnson. Kind of like Keely Ringo. Didn't have the greatest season to maintain his spot as sort of a first-round talent, because Antonio Johnson was a first-round talent in September, just like Keely Ringo. Didn't do himself any favors. I think a team's going to get a guy who could come down, play in the slot, can really have some versatility as a safety in general in a defense. I think he's really head and shoulders above the rest. I don't know what I'm missing in that, but he's prospect fatigue, so teams sort of forgot about him. They moved on to other people. But there's still some really good safeties out there. JL Skinner's still there, Jamie Robinson, Christopher Smith still on the board, Ronnie Hickman still on the board. One of my personal favorites, Daniel Scott, who I think could be a real steal. Let's talk about prospect fatigue and underperforming. Brandon Joseph would be the poster boy for that. He's potentially going undrafted, which is wild to me. Hopefully he gets picked up somewhere, because I think that if you can tap in to what his potential was, you're going to get a really good player. But safety's really tough. I'm going to go with Antonio Johnson, though. But there's a number of guys there in this group that I just don't understand why teams were pushing them away. I guess positional value is not very high, but I feel like a bunch of teams that may be safety needy are going to get some quality day 3 players here. Now tight end, Zach Kuntz, I think, is a good option. Yeah. People are saying Will Mallory. I don't really know. Josh Wiley, I think, will turn out to be a really good receiving tight end for somebody. Yeah. I think all the real great tight ends went off the board, and then you start to get the fringe ones where it's okay, you're drafting this guy clearly for traits, like Brenton Strange from Penn State. So, but I think Kuntz, Josh Wiley have the best chance to make an impact early on the team they end up on. All right, and the last group here is going to be the wide receivers. And again, there's some good talent here. Tyler Scott and A.T. Perry right there at the top. They jump out. But a guy that sticks out is the guy there at the bottom, Kayshon Boutte, who kind of like Eli Ricks, I'm like, who is giving him the advice to come out in this draft? I feel like you should have played one more year, kept your stock up. He was somebody who was looked at as wide receiver 1 or at worst wide receiver 2, hit along with JSN right when this draft process started. So who knows what happened with that. Parker Washington, who I dubbed as the potential to be the Wan'Dale Robinson of this draft. I think that really turned out to be Jaden Reed, who went, I think, 43 to the Packers. But I think he's going to be somebody who can be a real... So when you're looking for a little speedy slot guy, I think a team would really be smart to add him. But yeah, you got Parker Washington, Kayshon Boutte, who I think there's a chance he goes undrafted altogether. I think him, Eli Ricks, and Brandon Joseph, of the 3 that are the big names, they have the most potential to end up being the ones to go undrafted. Kind of like what we saw with the Alabama linebacker and the Florida State defensive tackle, Marvin Wilson, went undrafted. And then who was the name of the Alabama linebacker that went undrafted. Jacksonville picked him up. He had the knee injury. It's going to bother me, but I think you guys know who I'm talking about. Leave in the comment section if you know who I'm talking about. But for this one, I think Tyler Scott is the best of the ones that are left. Yeah, I think that's Tyler Scott. I'm going with Tyler Scott. Locking in Tyler Scott. And there it is. The best of the rest. Want to hear your opinions in the comment section of who you think is the best player still on the board in this draft, which player is going to make the biggest impact, and who's going to be the biggest steal of day 3. I'm going to go to bed because it is midnight now. I was talking for a while. Thanks for sticking with me. Enjoy day 3 of the draft. Let's go Giants. See you guys next time.